What's up, vapors? Thanks for checking out Daily Vape TV. My name is Nick, and today we're going to be taking a look at the MK RTA. Alright guys, so the random question of the day is, what is your favorite holiday meal? What do you like to eat around the holidays? Let me know right down there in the comments box. So in my family, we get together and celebrate brunch for Christmas, and with that, I love everything about it. There's just so much to eat. There's usually bacon and sausage and waffles, and of course, monkey bread. Monkey bread is so amazing, and top it all off with a couple of mimosas, and I am a happy camper. So that is me. I want to hear from you guys. What is your favorite holiday meal? Right down there in the comment section below. So the device we're going to be looking at today is the MK RTA from Acevape Tech, with a big huge shout out and thank you going to Acevape Tech for allowing me to take a look at one of these devices for the purpose of making this video. This device here is very similar to the Dead Rabbit RTA, which is one that I really did enjoy myself, so I've been enjoying this thing for the past couple of weeks. And as far as that goes, I feel like they did miss a couple of cues with this one here, but overall it's a pretty darn good device. So taking a quick look online, this device comes in 5 different color options for you to choose from. We have black, silk blue, silver, gold, and gunmetal, and it's going to be around $35 or so for this one here. Of course, if you want to get one of these things for yourself, I'll have a link on my website. Link to that will be right down there in the description below. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive down to the close-up view and take a better look at this thing. Alright guys, so as you can see, we've got the MK RTA in its original box, so let's quickly take a look around the packaging, then we'll take a look at what's inside. So, first things first here is you can't see what the device looks like from the outside of the box. We just have the hammer and axe logo right there. We have Acevape Tech, MK RTA, and Acevape Official right there at the bottom. We have their website on the bottom of the box there. On this side, we have our color indication, which only lists stainless, black, and other, so that's not too helpful. Mine, luckily, is stainless. On the top here, we have some company information, and on this side here, just MK RTA. On the back, we have some basic stuff, just basically what comes inside the box. I'm not actually sure if this is the full retail packaging or not, but in either case there, very simple. On the back there, just what comes inside. So, speaking of inside, let's take a look inside the box. We get, of course, the MK RTA itself, which we'll take a look at in more detail in just one second here. We have a standard glass. This is the 3mm glass that they give you. We have an Allen key. So if you don't already have a drawer full of these like I do at your house, then they give you one there. And of course, the little baggie of parts. So this includes a spare drip tip if you want to use something a little bit smaller than the one that comes on there. You have a 510 drip tip adapter, a full set of O-rings, and a couple of spare grub screws as well. Pretty much your standard supply there when it comes to spare parts. Alright guys, let's talk about the specs. First of all, it's 25mm in diameter. The standard capacity is 3mm, and with the bubble glass it goes up to 5mm. It has a postless deck for single and dual coil builds, leak-proof top airflow system, airflow direct to coil for denser cloud and better flavor, and it has a 510 connection. Alright guys, so let's take a look at this tank from top to bottom as we typically do, starting off with the drip tip up top here. So this drip tip is a little bit unique. It's not your standard 810. It has a little bit of a hollowed out section at the bottom there to accept this kind of ridge at the top, as you can see right there. So it's a little bit different, and as you can see, nice wide bore through the middle there. And this thing is absolutely big and chunky. So if you're a fan of big, fat, wide drip tips, then this is going to be for you. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of it. And unfortunately, I discovered that it's not quite 810 up top. I have this Dead Rabbit tip here, and it's very, very loose. It wiggles around a lot, and it just basically falls out if you hang it upside down. So this one, you're going to have to stick with what they give you in the box, unless you just happen to have one of those kind of slightly fatter 810 drip tips hanging around. Speaking of the top section here, we have the bore going down to the chimney section, nice and wide, so you can get some really good clouds off of this thing. And the O-ring sits just inside this little lip here, not quite fat enough to hold onto an 810 drip tip, unfortunately, but there you go. And that's the little lip that your drip tips are going to sit on top of. The top cap itself has these kind of little flattened sections, which kind of improves the grip, but not that much. This is a very shiny stainless here, so it still takes a little bit to grip onto this top cap section. It's not the worst I've ever seen, but definitely far from the best. Taking a look inside here, we can see the little open sections where you're going to fill this thing up, and I'm not sure if you can really see that, but the actual chamber is just below this section here, so it can be a little bit more of a challenge when fitting those little chubby gorilla bottles or unicorn bottles in there, and glass strippers are pretty much completely out of the question when it comes to this guy here. The airflow control section is also right up here at the top, yet it's once again very difficult to get a grip on this thing. I would suggest carrying around a vape band or something like that with this tank, just because if you are one of those people that like to change your airflow up all the time, this section here can be really a challenge to grip onto and change it up. So on the outside of the chamber, you can see the cool looking engraving, which is the hammer and axe logo. I think that's pretty badass and cool looking. On the inside of the chamber, you can see the little slots where it lines up with the deck, and it's also a slightly domed top cap section to this chamber, which makes for a really nice flavor. And once again, you can see the bore going right through there. So here's the build deck with my coils installed. I just wanted to give you guys a sense of what I was working with when testing this device out, and as you can see, the wick tails are just barely tucked into this little section at the sides here, and that's because you really got to thin that wick out, and you don't want them too long, because otherwise you'll run into some major wicking issues with this device here. And last but not least, we have the build deck without my coils installed. Now, as you can see, it's a very simple little postless deck, nothing too fancy with this one here. We have grub screws on the side securing your coils in place. Never had any issues with those, which is a really nice change of pace. And it's got these little kind of angles on either side there, which kind of help with your wicking, just kind of fall right down into place. Although these little side holes where your wicking goes is a little bit on the small side. I've said this before, but yeah, those should be opened up a little bit more in my opinion. And on the very bottom, we have the engravings. It's just simply MKRTA, Ace Vape Tech, and a serial number right there. Very plain and simple with a gold-plated 510 connection. So that's all I've got for you guys in this little close-up section. Let's go back to the main screen, have a quick vape on this thing, and we'll talk about it some more. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the close-up section of this video. Now let's talk about my personal thoughts about this device, some pros, some cons, and whether or not it's worth purchasing. Starting off with the pros, my first pro is that it's very easy to build, super intuitive, and it's got one of those elevated postless decks, so all you have to do is measure the leg length that you need, drop your coils in place, tighten them in, and that is it. That's all you have to do to build this thing. Super easy, and it should take you under 5 minutes. My second pro for this device is that it's virtually leak-proof. There's really nowhere else for the juice to go besides into the chamber. It has top airflow, so I've never had a single drop leak out of this thing no matter what I do to it. As long as you wick this thing right, you'll have a very pleasant vaping experience. And my third pro today is that it's got a great balance between flavor and clouds. It's not just one or the other with this device here. You get a nice mix of both, and as far as flavor is concerned, I would put it right on par with the Dead Rabbit RTA, and as far as clouds are concerned, maybe a little bit less than the Dead Rabbit, just kind of ever so slightly more restricted considering the airflow itself is a little bit smaller. And my fourth and final pro for this device is that it feels very solidly built. The build deck on this thing is fantastic. You can really wrench on those screws and it's not going to fall apart on you. As far as the threads are concerned, very nice and smooth, no hang-ups, no crunchiness whatsoever, and just the overall kind of look and feel to this thing is just really nice and sort of high class. Alright guys, so moving on to the cons. My first con is a bit subjective, but the drip tip they supply this thing with is absolutely massive. Now, as you can see, I left it on here because it matches nicely with the rest of my setup, and it does come with an extra one in the box. However, they supplied me with a blue one, and I'm not too crazy about it, so I kind of went to my other drip tips, and it unfortunately is not really compatible with the rest of my 810 drip tip collection because they're all just a tiny bit too small and tend to fall out. So that is definitely unfortunate for this one here. I think they kind of should have went back to the drawing board a little bit as far as that aspect is concerned, and hopefully when they do another version of this, they will fix that issue. My second con for this device is that you really have to thin out your cotton in order for this thing to wick properly. I had to go through about 2 or 3 sets of wicks before I got it right, and on my third try, I really just had to rake the crap out of my cotton in order to just thin it out to just barely tuck it into place and let that juice flow up into the chamber section. But with that, once you get it right, you want to hold on to that for as long as possible because wicking this thing can definitely be a bit of a challenge. And my third and final con for this device is that it's not quite as easy to fill as something like the Dead Rabbit RTA. The filling method is the same, however the fill ports at the top are a lot smaller, and with that I could barely even stick the nozzle of a chubby gorilla bottle into them so I can fill up my tank. And I tend to fill this tank a lot. I mean, it is a 5 mil capacity with the bubble glass, but with the standard glass it's only 3 mils, and you're going to be filling that thing all day long if you plan on using that particular glass with this device here. 5 mil is a little bit better, but I still tend to fill this thing about 4 to 5 times a day. Alright guys, so at the end of the day, is this device worth purchasing? Would I go out of my way to pick one of these up if I didn't get this one in for review? So the closest competition to this one here is the Dead Rabbit RTA. I've been talking about it this entire video, and I feel like there's a few features on the Dead Rabbit RTA that I like a little bit more than this one here. On this device, the deck is a little bit neater and cleaner, but the wicking ports are smaller, and it just makes it a little bit more difficult. As far as the drip tip thing, that's very disappointing, and unfortunately, I'm going to have to say no to this one here. But if you like the look of it, and you want to pick one up for yourself, you can find a link to that on my website. Link to my website will be right down there in the description below. But that about does it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for more videos just like this. Leave your comments down in the box below, and make sure you check out the advocacy and my social media links right down there. If you guys are feeling generous and want to sign up to be a patron of mine, then you can check it out on my website. It's right there on the main page, dailyvape.tv. Link is right down there in the description. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and as always, vape on.